Boom, boom. Gamers all around the flat universe. This is the last tier list we have done 3 weeks ago. It was the new Civ tier list for July, but this is an emergency tier list. This is emergency tier list. There's been a patch. Keeps gutted, destroyed, crapped on. They suck. Rus got a little nerf. KW Eeps, that's right. Boiling oil removed from the game. But Beastyqt, it's still in the game. Yeah, it fucking sucks. It's out of the game. Stop wasting your resources on boiling oil. With that being said, this was the previous tier list. Now let's emergently get it back into it. Reset. Reset. What's the worst Civ? Do I add another tier? Because there's one Civ that was a D tier and they just got fucking gutted. They got gutted, they got fucked, they got scammed even more. That's right, that's Delhi. It's the worst fucking Civ. They got obliterated. The keeps now cost 900 stone, which means if you go compound, your keep costs 720 stone. Delhi also recently received a sacred side nerf, where they receive less gold from sacred sites. Delhi Imperial sucks ass. It's awful. And I love Delhi. It's sad, but it sucks. And let's not forget that boiling oil is gone. So now you're making these paper towers that you can charge up with 20 horses and kill it. It's sad. It's sad as fuck. I don't know what to tell you guys. Moving up the ranks is Ottoman. Can we give it up? It's not as bad as Delhi, but that doesn't mean it's good. I've been trying a lot of 2TC Ottoman, I gotta say. Now, I'm not the best, player to ask about Ottoman. I am pretty bad with Ottoman, I think. Like, I can do the 1TC Archer Sipahi shit, right? And I think that's still pretty good. Like, I would say that's probably still A tier. I have a guide for it on YouTube, like the just feudal all in with Sipahi Archer. I think that one's still great, but in general, other than that, I think the 2TC or like the Castle Rush is like, I've tried all of it. It just doesn't feel that good. Like I feel like if you macro, you're, like I said, it's the same problem with these civs that suck in Imperial. If you go second TC, you're kind of extending the game. And then Imperial Ottoman just feels bad. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I actually prefer Delhi over Ottoman in Imperial. Because Delhi at least has hand cannoneers, which Ottoman doesn't have. And Delhi has elephants, which are actually pretty good in super late game. I don't know. I do think that Ottoman is probably better in feudal and castle than Delhi. But in Imperial, it's still meh. And there's been a lot of people experimenting with Ottoman, like 2TC. I've tried it myself. It just doesn't feel, I don't know, it feels weird. Like, it feels something's missing. I don't know how to explain it. So, but, it's not as bad as Delhi. So, there's that. Now, I do think that, by the way, I do want to say, like, this tier list is made for, like, top level, in my opinion, of course. So if you're a Delhi player or Ottoman player, that doesn't mean you should quit your Civ. You can still win your games. Don't worry about it. I do think that Delhi is pretty good in feudal. There are some bad matchups for Delhi, namely China. But you can still win in feudal pretty hard, I think, and do pretty well. It's just not as dangerous. Like, I'm not like, oh shit, I'm playing against Delhi. It's like, it's Delhi, The next Civ we'll be talking about is going to be Rus. I don't think anything has changed, I'm gonna be honest. Like, they did nerf them, but playing Rus just feels so comfortable. The Kremlin makes the Civ really good. Second TC is almost freebie. It's still a pretty good Civ. I don't know what to say. It's still pretty good. Now, the next one we'll be talking about. Now, I had a certain Civ in B tier, but I'm going to put Abbasid in A tier. I've been playing a lot of Abbasid recently, and I don't remember if I even lost a game recently with Abbasid. Like, I feel like just a solid pick. I don't know what has changed recently. Maybe, I mean, they did receive a mini buff, which I don't think impacted too much. They did receive a buff where fresh foodstuffs cost 75 gold. Abbasid has kind of gone through what the other civs have, where it's like China, where it's like, oh, you can macro and you can stay in feudal longer. You don't need to actually rush up to castle. You have camels, you can make spearmen, you can make archers, and you can kind of overwhelm your opponent's castle army with your just feudal crap that you throw at them. But Abbasid used to be very like spearmen, horsemen, or some horsemen and then spearmen and archers into castle, and then men-at-arm, and then knights and whatever. That style is not really a thing anymore. Now Abbasid style is most of the time you actually don't open economic wing, you open military wing, and what that allows you is to skip your barracks or archer range, so that you don't need to make barracks against French, or you don't need to make anything against Mongols early on. You can just kind of go straight to the TC, which is pretty nice. You have the 15% HP in feudal, and because you're working on massing units, you're gonna have so many units that you should be able to overpower your opponent, even if they have the attack speed stuff or whatever else. Now, the reason why I think Abbasid is now better than it used to be 3 weeks ago, or why my opinion has changed on them, is because people realized how good the composite bow upgrade is. If you enter castle with like 60 archers and you get composite bows and castle or upgrade for archers, and you get +2 ranged attack, they kill everything. And when I say everything, they kill men-at-arms, they kill knights, they absolutely fucking shred everything in front of them. So the meta has kind of been like, you stay in the feudal longer and you get a crap ton of archers, and once you hit castle, your like power spike with your army is just fucking insane. Like your archers become so much stronger that even if at that point opponent is like switched to armored units, you don't even need crossbows, because the archers that you will upgrade will get so much DPS that you will just plow through them and you can use your gold for something else. Also, they got, you know, gulams, which are getting used more and more. I wouldn't say they're too impressive, to be honest. I'm not really noticing anything like, I'm not like, oh, gulams are coming. I just see them as men-at-arms. I don't know if they're still bugged with their attack or something, but they're alright. The next civ we'll be talking about is going to be Mongol. I don't think Mongols are that bad. I've been playing more and more. There's a build that I've been doing. I have a guide for them on my YouTube channel. It is deer stones into trade into Keshik Archer, and you kind of have the deer stones for the, you know, the movement speed for your villagers, so your economy feels a lot better. But then with the trade, even though you make a normal market and then start the trade, you force your opponent to attack you. Then you have Keshiks, and yeah, like United in the chat is saying, the keeps got a massive nerf. Massive nerf. Not a small nerf, a massive nerf. And the fact that keeps are nerfed, well, that's pretty good for Mongol. And I don't know how the keeps got nerfed only a few days ago, so the Mongol might go even more up in the future, because Mongol also has the upgrade, as I like to call them, the budget Fire Lancer upgrade, where their units do more torch damage. And if you get that upgrade, you can actually just plow through keeps in like 10 seconds now with Mongols, and you don't lose anything because Boiling Oil doesn't do anything. So that's a lot nicer. Obviously, recently I haven't had too many Mongol games in Imperial, but also Mongol got the 30% HP upgrade on their buildings, which is really nice. It helps them a lot. And if you manage to get your trade going, while Keshiks are not that good of a unit compared to like knights in castle, you should have a lot of the gold income, and you should be able to, kind of like Malian, you know, use the numbers to beat the quality. And I think the best thing about Mongol in all of this is the civs that it does really well against is the civs that it did not used to do well against. For example, Mongol versus China is really, really good for Mongols, in my opinion. Because if Mongol trades, China has to attack, right? You can't let them just trade. But if you attack, you're running into Keshiks, which are basically knights, right? Because of their armor. So Zuginu don't deal a lot of damage to them. And if you don't let China boom and they have to attack you, you put them in kind of uncomfortable position. So I like that matchup for Mongol quite a bit. And there's some of the other, like any civ that likes to camp, Mongol is actually good against, but for different reasons than it used to be. So before, the civs that you used to camp with or macro boom with, Mongol would tower rush and then throw shit at you, right? But right now, the reason why Mongol is good is because you can actually macro against those civs, funnily enough, and you force them to attack you, and then you beat them down. I've also had some games recently with Abbasid versus Mongol against Louis. He was playing Abbasid, and he went like 3 or 4 TCs, tried to basically outboom, but I just added more markets and just did like Omega trade, and I was getting like 5k gold a minute. And I managed to win that. And Abbasid is, you know, the game got to Imperial, but I had so much income that it didn't matter. Like I was throwing like Mass Mangurai, Kashik, and then Hand Cannoneers like in masses on them. And even though Abbasid is good late game, you just don't have enough economy to sustain that. So yeah, I don't think Mongol is going to be an S tier, but I do think it's not as bad as I thought and as everyone else thought initially. And again, the keep nerf, obviously, this is why this is an emergency tier list. The next thing we'll be talking about, I don't think China is S tier, but I do think that China is good and also actually received a tiny little buff, in my opinion. Not necessarily buff, but so for those that don't know, China has received a, I don't know if I should call it a nerf, a change on their keeps, where now it shoots a lot faster, but it deals 25 damage. So the China keeps DPS has increased. I can't remember the numbers. It used to be like 16 DPS. Now it's 18 DPS or 18 point something. But it does less damage, so it does worse against armored units and like knights and men-at-arms. That's theory. That's the idea. And it does less damage against siege. Now, it does do way less damage against siege. So you will not lose siege anymore if you run it into the keep, Chinese keep, and the siege just explodes. Especially in Imperial, if you upgrade the siege, upgrade it gives you extra HP. The Chinese keep will do 1 damage per shot to your siege. So for sure, siege is a lot tankier against keeps. But against armored units, to be honest, I haven't really noticed that big of a change. I do think they kill armored units slightly slower, but they still fucking dent in armored units completely. And even though it doesn't have boiling oil, or, you know, it keeps boiling oil sucks, I do think that making keeps as China is still worth it because of their DPS. Because other keeps in the game shoot arrows, which are mostly negated by armor. But Chinese keeps still do a lot of DPS, they're still worth. Now they do overkill a lot. So what that means is, if it takes 2 shots to kill an archer, let's say, the keep actually shoots 3 times at it. So like the 3rd shot goes into thin air. But I still think it's a very good civ. It's a good civ on a lot of maps, so I'm gonna have to put it right there, although you gotta be pretty solid playing it. The next civ we'll be talking about is going to be French. I think French, I mean, nothing's changed. Now, French keeps, so this is the thing. Keeps got nerfed, right? So this is bad for French, but Not really. And let me explain why. Because initially I was like, oh, this is pretty bad for French, because with French you want to make keeps, right? Like with Delhi, for example. But there's a difference. When you make keeps with Delhi, you are the defender, right? You are the one that's holding up the opponent in Castle or Imperial. But with French, you're the one attacking. You're using keeps to secure locations and to push your opponent. Or you're using it at like back of your base to secure trade. And even if keeps get nerfed more, like let's say the keep damage is halved, you're still going to make keeps as French because of two things. Number one is the cost of your units gets reduced for stables and archer ranges around the keep, so it's still worth to make. For 900 stone, that's how much keeps are now, you still get a massive cost reduction for knights, for horsemen, archers, letters, and hand cannoneers. So you're still going to make keeps. So while the keep nerf did happen, it actually doesn't impact them as much as some of the other civs, because it has different uses for French and just better uses for French. And second, if you go Red Palace, which you go pretty much 98% of the time since the Red Palace buff, the keeps still fucking clap for French. Like, they do a lot of damage. So I don't think that's the keep change has affected French too much. In a way, it actually buffed French keeps, because for every other civ it's kind of shit, but for French it still holds the same value. If anything, it's good that the keeps got nerfed if you're a French player, because now you can just dive under keeps with knights and you're completely fine. So yeah, the next civ we'll be talking about is going to be English. Now this might be a surprise, but I don't think English is that good. Contrary to popular belief that English is the best civ and is broken at the high level, it's really not. It's a slow civ, it's very slow. You know, people have been testing around with Abbey of Memes to kind of get English going more with cavalry and harassment and stuff. And that can work, but then if you play against French or Rus, you can't open with Abbey of Memes because the French knights are gonna dent in your horsemen. So I don't think that English is that strong for that reason. It's like super strong if you get to Imperial or if you play prolonged feudal matches. But I do think that these civs above are very, very good against English. Like maybe English versus China is decent for English early on, but later on it kind of gets worse and worse, and French and Rus completely counter English because of knights, and because, you know, once the spearmen are down, the knights are going to mow down everything. I do think English is better than Mongol. Like maybe I could do something like this, right? But you get the point. The next civ that I'm going to be putting in is going to be HRE. Now, I'm not putting these in any specific order. I think Rus and French this is a good order. English and Mongol and Ottoman and Delhi is a good order. But these three, I'm not sure which one is best, which one, you know, in which order. Now, HRE is a civ that does make keeps, right? Because you can put relics in them. You can gather stone really fast. So you can plop down a keep really fast. But it kind of has an exit strategy, just like French, where, like, if you're English, there's no reason for you to make a keep over a tower, right? The keep gives you attack speed, so does tower. But for HRE, you need to make one keep so that you can get the two unique upgrades that exist in the keeps, unless you go Elsbach, or guess you can get it there too. So you will need to make a keep. You can also put a relic to make the keep a lot stronger. But just like with French, one great thing about HRE is they have a unique upgrade that increases the HP of your towers by 40%. And that stacks together with the upgrade that gives 30% extra HP to your buildings. So I can't remember the exact numbers, so someone can correct me on this, but I think the HRE towers have 2,700 health with all the upgrades, which is insane. So even though you can't make, or the keeps are not as good as they used to be, you can actually just make mass bombard towers and you're still completely okay, because also your emplacements are a lot cheaper. And with the keep cost getting increased, it's actually even more valuable now for you to spam bomber towers than to spam keeps with HRA. So for that reason, we're putting them here. And last but not least, Malian. This is the only civ that I'm not really sure, to be completely honest, where I would put it. I think it's either here or here, or like it would be like here or here, but I'm more leaning to putting it into A tier for now. Malian right now is probably the civ that's going through the most like discovery and changes. Like we've seen some with Ottoman and Mongol, but I feel like it's kind of, we've tested stuff. This is what we've kind of figured out. But with Malians, people are still figuring out the exact timings of when to do what. I've seen a lot of castle rushes with Malians. I've seen people fighting in feudal with Malians. I've seen people going 2 TC with Malians into Farimba. I've seen people go 2 TC into cows, into that cow landmark. I've seen people go 1 TC cows into the cow landmark. Like there's so many things that people are trying out, and they're adding pro scouts on top of that, right? So there's so many things that people are trying out, and I feel like if you do Malian really well, you have so many units and so much economy. But I feel like that people right now are not being aggressive enough against Malians, because in the past, by the time you get to their base, they go and get Farimba. So it's kind of like useless in a way. But now people are playing more macro with Malians, but I feel that people are still playing defensive against them when they should be going aggressive, because some of the recent games I've had, Malian players went pro scouts, which is greedy as in it's an investment, then they went second TC, then they went cows in feudal, and 2 gold pits, right? There's so many resources into just economy that I felt like if I played that game again, if I attacked a lot sooner, the Malian would have died or took a lot of damage. But people are still in that mindset where, oh, you have to get castle before Malian does, or, you know, you gotta be worried about Malian scouts and stuff like that. So Malian is still going through a lot of changes. I can actually see it becoming an S tier civ. I can also see it becoming worse. Who knows? Maybe people figure out how to play against it. Only the meta shift will show, right? But for now, I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think it's a pretty good civ. Pretty difficult to play, but I think there's a lot of unique stuff coming out of it. And any civ that has a lot of options is generally a pretty good at the top level, because the opponent has to scout a lot in order to see what you're doing, and Malian is very good at denying the scout because they have Malian scouts or warrior scouts. So that's my emergency tier list after the keep changes. Now Rus is unchanged, by the way, even though the keeps got nerfed. Rus never really relies on having keeps, so it doesn't affect them too much. All in all, the keep changes kind of just fucked the civs that are defensive in general. But again, China didn't get affected. I would say it did affect Abbasid, but also the new playstyle with Abbasid is really, really strong. It obviously helped Mongol. It fucked Delhi even harder. And I think that the civs that can, they just kind of moved away from keeps to other areas. And the keeps that can't, well, sucks for you. Alright. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now playing Delhi 2TC and trying to save the civ, but it ain't looking too hot. Have a great day, YouTube gamers, Twitch gamers. Let's keep going.